Welcome to Conversations Different, a podcast from the Santa Fe New Mexican about the interesting people, places, and issues of northern New Mexico. This is Inez Russell Gomez, and today we are doing an extra special podcast speaking to Teresa Leger Fernández, U.S. Representative from the 3rd Congressional District. Welcome, Representative.
Hello, Inez, and hello to everybody out there in our wonderful podcast world of Nuevo Mexico.
Thanks for joining, as I know this is a really busy time. As everyone knows in the country, the current administration is dedicated to governing by executive order. I mean, who needs Congress? What is the point of that? What do these orders mean to New Mexico and to New Mexicans?
So what Trump has been doing is really devastating for New Mexico from his very first action that very first week where he froze funding, illegally froze funding. We need to remember, the president is not a king. The president is not a dictator. But
he said today in a tweet, long live the king, just as a point.
He is acting like a tyrant.
Yes.
Right? And we decided as Americans that we did not want to be ruled by a tyrant. We did not want to be ruled by a king. And so when we set up the Constitution, we made sure there were 3 branches. Congress has the power of making the laws and of passing the budgets and funding. The president is supposed to carry out those laws and spend the money that we sent him and not spend more and not spend less. He is trying to undermine the work of not just President Biden, but of presidents going back decades so that he can destroy the federal government as we know it and remake it in his own image. And that image is one that looks like billionaires getting tax cuts and running the world.
And getting special contracts so they take over whole departments. I mean, I read that Elon Musk said that they don't need NASA if they've got the SpaceX engineers or that kind of thing. So it's a system where the very rich enrich themselves and the programs that have been the social safety net for millions of people, including lots of New Mexicans, are going to be hit.
It's not just the social safety net. It is that, but it is what we need for government to function. We need to remember that the federal government plays an essential role that touches all of our lives. From do we have safe food, right? We rely on the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, to help our farmers plant that food. They're reneging on contracts to farmers. I was out in Tucumcari, met with farmers, met with irrigation districts, and the United States government has reneged on their contracts. The one farmer told me, it used to be a contract with the United States was like gold. I could count on it. I know that if I spent my $100,000, they would put up their share. And now he is out $100,000. He doesn't know whether he can plant. They don't know what they can do. They would lose in that area. They have a $45 million impact in the Tucumcari area that Trump's actions have put at risk. You asked me, what are the implications? Look at all our federal workforce. New Mexico has a higher federal workforce than other places, about 18.9. Let's round it up to 19%. But that means that 19% of federal employees all have families that are relying on them. And I need to remind everybody that federal workforce, they are talented and they are committed. They could have made a lot more money in the private sector, but they are giving back to their community. I had at the legislative joint session with me, Tom Begay, who was a code talker, but he was also a federal employee. So everybody stood up to applaud him because he was a code talker. He also is 100 years old, but he retired as a federal employee. So Republicans stood up to applaud him as a code talker, and I said, would you please also stand up to applaud him as a federal employee? I kind of got him in that they kind of had to stand up. But that's the kind of thing we need to remember. These federal employees do important work. They keep us safe in the air. They keep our food safe. They keep our nuclear weapons safe. They do,
and they got fired by accident, some of them.
They got fired by accident, right?
Yeah.
But just think about, they fund our roads and our bridges. And right now there is nobody, because of the firings, there is nobody available to approve the permits for ongoing projects that include roads, bridges, pipelines, broadband, things that Democrats invested in and passed, they have with executive order destroyed. But what we're doing is we're fighting back.
So you're going to the courts. One of the things that's really scary, considering the history of recent years in the West, because we're in drought, is that the wildland fire suppression programs are not being funded and firefighters are being laid off. So we have the prospect of a really bad summer and spring ahead if that doesn't change.
Right. We're in a La Nina year, and, La Nina means not very much snowpack. And we're coming up on the windy season, and they have fired the firefighters. I mean, talk about short-sighted, because the billions of dollars of loss that will happen. And some of the things...
They're going to get rid of FEMA so they won't have to pay back those losses. So I guess they've really saved a bunch of money.
So, I mean, we are doing a lot in Congress because we know that we don't have the votes, right? They control... Elections do have consequences. But I think that there is a betrayal that we are seeing of what people thought they were going to get when they voted for Trump. And he is betraying the voters. He's betraying rural voters, and he's betraying voters across America. And our job is to call him out. Yeah. And so we are asking citizens across America, there are things you can do. And don't feel that you are powerless. You have the power. Even though we don't have those votes, all we need is 3 Republicans in Congress to grow a spine and to say no. And for example, I have lots of rural hospitals in my district, and they're beautiful. They're the only places you can get health care.
And Medicaid cuts would flatten them.
Well, guess what? There's a lot of Republican districts have rural hospitals that look like mine. I'm going to get the stories from my hospitals, from Union County, from Roosevelt County, from San Miguel, across this district. And I'm going to say, I'm taking it to them. Say, my hospitals look like your hospitals, and we're going to make sure your people know that you are killing their hospitals. And so we're doing things like that so we can see if we can get those 3 Republican votes to stymie their efforts.
Right. That's kind of one of the things with the wildfires in California and Los Angeles. Even though he doesn't want to give money or he doesn't want to help necessarily, I'm talking about the president, there are a lot of Republican members of Congress there too. So at some point, they haven't seemed to push back. They've given up really their congressional powers of the purse at this point, but perhaps because it's going to affect their local districts, there might be a little bit more of a pushback from Republicans joining in with the already robust Democratic efforts.
They are going to have to decide, do they stand with their constituents or do they stand with the tyrant? And we are going to make it very clear that that's their choice. We are going to be having, sadly, when you don't control the speakership, you don't control the floor. We can't have committee hearings, but we can do a lot. We can do shadow hearings. We are going to be going on the road. I am the chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus. Hey,
yay! We
can celebrate.
Wait, can we have that? Because I thought DEI, groups for certain. I thought that was against the law now.
Democrats, right? Democrats understand that diversity, like I said, in New Mexico, we understand that diversity is strength. Diversity is joy. Diversity is to be celebrated.
It's
the
success.
Same way we look at, after we pledge allegiance to the United States flag, we look at that New Mexico flag and we celebrate the diverse cultures. Yeah. We know diversity is good. We also know that equity, how dare they attack equity? Equity, the definition of equity is fairness and justice. Fair and just. They want to be able to discriminate against people. They want to make sure that we are an unjust world and that we don't treat people fairly. Remember what those words are. DEI is discrimination. They want discrimination. They want injustice, and we are fighting back on that. But yes, we have a historic number of women who are Democrats in Congress. Now, Republicans lost because they don't support their women candidates, but we have an historic number of women. Just like in New Mexico, we have a majority of women in our legislature. But the other thing is that this is the first president who has come in as a new president and lost seats in the House. Normally, they flip 20 seats, they flip 40 seats. This time, they actually lost seats. And so we are looking also at what can we do now to fight back. And we're also looking at making sure that we win seats in 2026 so that we take back the House so that we can stop him from doing any more.
Okay, and on that note, we'll take a quick break and be back with some more Conversations Different.
dreaming of a home of your own in Santa Fe but feel like it may never happen? HomeWise is here to help. We are a local nonprofit that has helped close to 7,000 New Mexicans from all income levels and backgrounds become homeowners. HomeWise has everything you need to succeed in home ownership, including free coaching and classes, real estate services, affordable fixed-rate mortgages with low down payments, and down payment assistance to qualified borrowers who meet income restrictions and credit qualifications. We'll be with you every step of the way. Get started today on your path to owning a home. Call 505-983-9473 or visit us at homewise.org. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 188231.
We are back with Conversations Different, discussing the current political situation with our Congresswoman, Teresa Leger Fernández. One thing we were talking about during the break, and I know is close to your heart, is education. Your pops was the school superintendent in West Las Vegas. Your mama was a bilingual educator and, pioneer in that field. And now we have a Department of Education which funds schools across the country and in New Mexico. And I had read a story, we'll run this in a couple of days, but as we tape, they had said every school in the country has 2 weeks to divest itself of all diversity, inclusion, equity programs. And if not, we're going to stop funding you completely. This is on top of the threat to just disband the Department of Education and funnel it monies through other agencies. So I was thinking about New Mexico, and is a tribal language class one of those things that has to go? What about, my friend, the art teacher, had her kids make a snake that they went through the hallways of Milagro Middle School, for Year of the Drag or Year of the Snake. Is that going to be gone? I mean, what are schools to do to this really vague and kind of ridiculous order?
And I think that the ridiculousness is the right kind of approach, except for that it is also insidious. As I pointed out, they are trying to wipe out history about what the United States is and what our challenges have been, and where we've actually overcome obstacles, overcome racism, overcome bigotry, and are learning to celebrate each other. In New Mexico, there are 717 schools that receive federal funding. And the federal funding includes to help because you might have a high number of lower income students. It's to help with special education. It's to help train your educators. And so that money is essential. Now, it's not the biggest part of the pot because the states are responsible for that, but it is essential. So when they say we're going to cut that funding, that means they're going to get rid of a special education teacher that's helping disabled kids in that school. That means they're going to get rid of some of the extra money that's needed to just help that school keep up. And 717 schools in New Mexico will lose their federal funding because of this. Now, there are some of those programs are actually congressionally mandated. So there will be lawsuits around it. But what you pointed at is this fear of what do we do? And he is creating fear across the country in every sector, from what happens in your kid's school to whether or not you're going to lose your job if you're a federal employee, to whether or not they're going to come after you because they got your data. Right?
Yes.
Musk got your data. He got your IRS data. He got, how dare he? How dare he get what my health data is? We have laws against that, and they are violating those laws. So there's going to be lawsuits that go against that, and we are going to push as hard as we can. But how dare the president call teachers that it's all right to cut? One of his tweets was, it's all right to cut this funding because it's going to teachers, some of whom are ugly.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
How dare he attack the people who give to our children, who serve our children? I always say that service is an act of love because teachers agree to take a job that doesn't pay the highest, and they do it out of love for their children, and he is attacking that. And I hope that teachers across this country rise up. But I also am encouraging people who are federal employees or who know about what's happening, the Democrats have a hotline that we are asking. If you see something that you believe is illegal that they are doing, that they are unleashing discrimination, that people feel it's all right to discriminate now, that people feel it's all right to engage in sexual harassment now, let us know. Because we want to both capture those stories. We're doing story banks so that we can take them out and highlight what this actually means. Because people need to know it's not vague. It's not somebody else. It's your friend, your teacher, somebody you know, somebody you empathize with. And then there are whistleblower protections and there are whistleblower suits that can be brought. So we want to be able to connect people to where they can get help to raise these kind of whistleblowers. Go to my website, fernandez.house.gov, and I actually had to put up a new webpage, and it's called Crisis, because we're in a constitutional crisis. We're in a crisis to preserve the America as we know it. And so we have a webpage that's there, and we can help you. Give a call to my office. It's 505-428 428-4680. And it's on my website, 505-428-4680. Go to my website, fernandez.house.gov/crisis. Sign up for my newsletter. I can't put anybody on my newsletter. You have to sign up yourself because we are keeping everybody up to date on what we are doing. We need to hear from you.
So one way for people who are concerned about how to fight back in the current situation or how to become involved is just to get more information. And what you're saying is that through your newsletter, through other Democrats, you can find out what's going on. I'm sure there are a lot of nonprofit groups that are working. And it seems that people feel so disempowered. Are there other suggestions you have for people so they can feel like they're making a difference in what is a crisis in our country?
Right. And I think that people felt really good being able to have a protest at the Roundhouse because we needed to do something. Somebody texted me and said, I'm taking my 82-year-old mother to her very first protest. I said, go, baby, go. You know, we know that the phones are being flooded, right? That and they're not just calling Democrats because we're doing the right thing, but people are calling Republicans and people who might have moved here from Missouri or might have families still in Illinois are calling their Republican Congress people because people are speaking out, and I think that is very important. That people need to know that they can make those calls to the White House, to their Congress people wherever they are. They make their calls to me all the time, and it makes a huge difference. We are getting more calls than we've ever gotten. We're responding to them. We're trying to give people a sense that you are not powerless. Your voice matters. Go to our website, identify that. Get involved with those organizations that are fighting back. Help support our immigrant community. Somos is a wonderful organization.
Yeah, they're doing training throughout town on know your rights, on what to do should you even witness somebody getting accosted by an immigration service, or if you yourself are an immigrant, what to say and what to do and how you don't necessarily have to open your door, which I think is huge.
Exactly. We have these little small cards that are basically know your rights so that don't open that door, don't admit to anything. Whether you're a citizen, an immigrant with papers or an immigrant without papers, we should all do the same thing. Right? Yeah. Because we have a due process. We have constitutional rights.
And even non-citizens have those rights, which people don't necessarily know.
Right. Because when they come to your door, unless they have a warrant for you and they know what your status is.
And it's got to be a court warrant, not an administrative warrant.
They need to say, don't say, I don't want to talk to you. Yeah. Right? Where's your warrant? Yeah. And you have a little card and you give it to them. We have some of those at our office. Come ask for them. But we can also send you an email that has that paper. We'll be doing a whole congressional delegation. We're planning to do a congressional delegation by teletown hall on that. We do a lot of teletown halls because my district is so big, and we'll get 9,000, 13,000 people calling in and sharing sharing their fears and us sharing information. Once again, our newsletter, stay up to date. And it really is going to make a difference. And remember, it is a democracy. We're going to fight to keep it, and we're going to make sure that we have that election in 2026 and that we flip the House back, because that's going to be the most important thing, because we will stop his agenda once we get the House back in 2026.
On that note, we'll take a quick break and be back with our final segment of Conversations Different.
This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Looking to reach a wider audience and grow your business? For 175 years, the Santa Fe New Mexican has been the trusted voice of Santa Fe, with unmatched local reach in print and online. In addition to our long-standing, independent, family-owned newspaper, we have a full-fledged marketing team with the expertise to help you succeed in the 21st century. From traditional print to precision-targeted digital advertising, we have the tools to connect you with your ideal customers. Partner with us and see the results for yourself. Advertise with the Santa Fe New Mexican and unlock your business's full potential. Visit us at santafenewmexican.com/advertising or call us at 505-995-3852. Thank you.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking to our member of Congress, Teresa Leger Fernández. One of the things that's coming up in just a few weeks, and maybe right after this airs, is because of the debt ceiling, we can only spend so much money before we have to pass a resolution allowing us to, fiddle with it so that we can keep spending money. That expires mid-March, the current one. So what happens? The Republicans have a majority. One would think they could utilize that great majority and just do whatever they want. But they haven't been able to do that. They've had to have Democratic votes to pass a resolution. So this time, is the strategy going in, let the Republicans govern, or will the Democrats bail them out again?
So the Democrats are not going to just go and bail them out, right? The Democrats have always, in each of the institutions where we've helped out, ensured that we got what we wanted. And if you look at the last times we've done that, we had fundings that were passed that reflected the priorities that Americans wanted, which is investing in our communities, doing the infrastructure, investing in Medicare, Social Security, protecting veterans. Those were things we insisted on. And so when we got those, we went ahead and voted. Now, though, we are going to insist that there be protections for the Americans from what's happening right now. And if they are in control. If they can't pass their own budget resolution, and that budget resolution is destroying things that we deem essential, we're not helping them out. Now, if they want to pass a budget resolution that protects those investments and that says Trump can't run that does things, we'll have a conversation with them, but that's a conversation we'll have when they're willing to come and talk to us. What we are seeing right now is they think that bipartisanship is a dirty word. Right. Same thing, way they think that equity, which means justice and fairness, is a dirty word. They don't believe that they should ever talk to us. But we'll see. It's up to them, right? And what we're going to probably see come up first are the continuing resolution, because, under Republican leadership, they have not managed to fund last year's budget. They have not managed to pass a farm bill. And so they still have to do those things. The actual deficit, that they might be able to do some accounting and move that into the summer. And what we're going to fight, because everything they're doing, we need to remember to always say it. The reason they are cutting funding that Americans deserve and rely on is so they can give tax breaks to the rich. They want to have a $4 trillion increase to the deficit so that they can fund tax breaks to the billionaires. Not just the 1%, but the 0.01%, the billionaires out there and the biggest
the ones that are already making millions and millions every single hour.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do with that money? And some of them don't want it. But, so there's a great group called the Patriotic Millionaires who are like, no, tax us, right? Because they know that having a society that is just and fair, that has equity
we all pay our fair share.
We all pay our fair share, right? And instead, what they want to do, what we were trying to do is to increase taxes for people who earned more than $400,000. What they want to do is the opposite. Cut taxes for people who earn more than $400,000. As an example, the way we solve Social Security, because Social Security needs work. I have a bill that I've co-sponsored that's called Sacred Trust, because Social Security is a sacred trust. It's a promise. It's not just a promise. You paid in.
That's right.
But the reason it's in trouble is because once you hit a certain level of
you don't
income,
pay above
you
that.
You don't pay. And that's not fair. So that bill would require people who are earning more than $400,000 to pay their Social Security taxes, which they're not paying now.
And that would put it back and make it solvent.
Perfect. It would solve it all together. That's the Democrat approach. The Republican approach is cut benefits. So
just when I'm going to get some.
Yeah, there's always that, like, there are contrasts of what we do. We always stand with the working families, with those who have paid into Social Security and said, the rich should pay their fair share. The Republicans have done the opposite. They never stand with the working families. They might, sort of get that flag and put it out and have the biggest flags of anybody, but then they stab you in the back.
So how do Democrats get those working families to actually vote for them again instead of thinking that Trump's their buddy and vote for him?
So I call it guerrilla storytelling, right? That we need to be telling the stories of what Republicans are doing, using real life stories from how it's affecting, Susan or Robert over in Tucumcari, or the small business owner I talked to in the different places who say, I can't buy my eggs anymore, right? And bring those stories out and making sure those stories are heard in every corner of America. So we are trying to make sure that we're in podcasts. I go on Newsmax and my role as the chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus.
So you're speaking to the other side directly. Good for you.
Yeah, when they told me, so I was on there and they told me, the fires, the problem with the fires is DEI. And it's like, your mind is going like, what are they saying? The fires are DEI? And I said, no, it's the climate crisis and the climate change. But the other thing is, I would not be worried about being pulled out of a burning building by a woman firefighter. I've seen them work. They're very strong. And then the host, who is she goes, well, I actually work out a lot and I actually am pretty stronger than most of my counterparts. I could pull you out of a burning building. So she kind of agreed with me, even though she was doing the talking points, right? Of DEI is the reason we had those fires. They're
it's because they had female fire chiefs and they decided that was the reason.
They had to come up with stuff. And so the thing is, there, I actually had her agreeing with me that was ridiculous, even though she didn't want. So you have to kind of get at it and say, well, and she goes, you're right. I'm stronger than a lot of men. And so you just have to show up everywhere. Which is what I do. I mean, I show up throughout my district. I have a beautiful district, very diverse. It's diverse in what it looks like in terms of, those plains, the mountains, the mesas. It's diverse in terms of, I have Republican counties, Democrat counties. I love every part of my district. And I show up and they appreciate it in every part of my district, regardless of what their political affiliation is. And that's what we are doing. We are showing up all over the place, finding, podcasts. Yours is very popular, but find a podcast where there's 20 people listening. We're having a podcast at the Democratic Women's Caucus has its own podcast now. So, influencers, all the different places, we are showing up and talking. And radio is very important in some of our districts. If
you're out in the boonies, AM radio still rules.
It still rules, and we work to say, one of
KFUN.
You got it.
Yeah, I had visitors from college come to see me once, and I'll never forget their look on their face. One of them was from Denmark, and one of them was Long Island, and they were they were doing the rosary in Spanish, and then reading the obituaries every afternoon. And I said, "That's my hometown."
That's your hometown. Yeah, my brother's obituary. They read it, and it was a very long obituary.
Oh, it was beautiful.
It was very beautiful, and they read it, and it was nice.
This is personal, and let's just close on this. I just can't imagine how proud you must be of his legacy, because what a life. So her brother, Steve Leger, is a famous musician up north and toured all over playing the trumpet. And what other instruments did he play?
He played whatever instrument he wanted to pick up. So his second instrument, biggest instrument, was the flute, which I taught him how to play the flute. And he surpassed me within a month.
Yes. Right? Lita Romero kicked me out of band because I played the flute so badly.
So badly, yes. So he picked up and the other thing he did was he carried his instruments everywhere. He spread joy. He played on the plaza here. He played everywhere. I call him that he was the soundtrack of my life, of my family's life. He was the soundtrack of my campaign, because he always played La Delita, which was the guerrilla warriors women's song, and also of West Las Vegas. And it was beautiful. We packed the Our Lady of Sorrows church. He packed them. Probably had 700 to 800 people at his mass.
Oh, wow, that's a big church.
It was a big church, and it was so beautiful. A bunch of musicians came, and we called it a musical memorial afterwards. And there was a lot of love. And I asked people that there was a saying that may his blessing be a memory. And I said, well, with Steve, his memory is going to be musical. And I ask people to, whenever they think about him, don't have a memory that is silent. Will you please always have a memory that is musical?
On that note, this has been another Conversations Different. We'll be back next week.